On this week's Whether or Not, we check up on the health of the ozone hole down in the South Pole, how you can help hurricane victims in Puerto Rico, and in this week's feature report, look at Hurricane Ophelia and its impacts across the British Isles. That and more, along with your weekend forecast. Don't go anywhere. Whether or Not starts right now. And a warm welcome to you wherever you are, and welcome to this edition of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Jake Langedyk.
And I'm your forecaster, Kristy Steward.
I have to say, I'm looking forward to the weekend, the biggest football game of the season thus far. How's the weather shaping up?
Yes, well, we do have some rain in our upcoming forecast, but I think that we will be staying clear for the football game, although how warm we will be, I'll have more details on that coming up
warm
in
weather.
Just a moment.
Warm weather. That does not sound like autumn football to me, but we'll take it any way we can get it. We'll have Kristy's forecast in a couple of minutes, but first, here is Nature in the News. As Northern California residents are returning to their homes after the devastating fires over the last week, health officials are warning those wanting to return that hazardous materials, such as pesticides, paint, and gasoline, all burned up along with the buildings they were stored in, and these materials are now part of the debris and ash and are now actually even more dangerous than they were in the first place. For some, the fires are still ongoing, but in areas where the flames have subsided, victims are going back home, scouring the debris for anything that survived the fires. But Dr. Jeffrey Plumley, the Associate Director for Environmental Health at the United States Geological Survey, as well as someone who studied the impacts of large wildfires in Southern California, say that those who return to burdened residential areas risk exposure to various heavy metals, such as lead and chromium, and other hazardous elements like arsenic and antimony. Cleanup from these fires is expected to take months, if not years.
Calling all members of the Center County community, AccuWeather is asking all of us to donate hurricane relief items to their headquarters here in State College to be shipped to Patillas, Puerto Rico. After seeing the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, AccuWeather decided to dedicate their Rays of Hope Community Service Initiative to adopting the remote villages of Patillas in Puerto Rico. Patillas was one of the first towns hit when Hurricane Maria made landfall as a Category 4 storm. The 20,000 residents of Patillas don't have port access, so they've been largely cut off from current relief efforts and supplies. According to the mayor of Patillas, it looks like an apocalypse happened. Everything has been washed away. This week, AccuWeather had a shipping container sent to their headquarters, which will be shipped into San Juan and then driven to Patillas at the end of October. AccuWeather hopes to ship this container out full, so they are asking all of us here in Center County and the surrounding areas to donate items to their headquarters located on Science Park Road in State College. The mayor of Patillas has asked we send over water purification tablets, water buckets with lids, baby formula, over-the-counter medications, summer clothing, shoes, twin-size sheets, blankets, batteries, non-perishable food items, water, soap, hand sanitizer, toothpaste, detergent, sanitary pads, flashlights, razors, and paper goods. Donations can be made Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or on weekends from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. until October 24th. If you can't make a physical donation but you would still like to help, monetary donations are also being accepted and will be used to purchase more supplies. To donate online, go to center-foundation.org, click on the Fund menu, select Health and Social Services, then donate to the Rays of Hope Fund, or send checks to Center Foundation at 1377 Ridge Master Drive, State College, PA 16801, with the memo line stating Rays of Hope Fund.
A recent rise in the production of chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, commonly used in manufacturing PFC, paint strippers, and refrigerants, may have slowed the recovery of the ozone hole in the southern hemisphere by up to 30 years. This is according to new research done by scientists at NASA and the University of East Anglia in England. Lead researcher Dr. David Orme said that a rise in demand for PFC in East Asia has led to the increase in CFC production. Only now, however, the materials being used are decaying slower than expected and also doing more harm than the CFCs first banned by the Montreal Protocol. The Montreal Protocol was signed back in 1987, which aimed to phase out CFCs in the hope to recover the ozone layer in Antarctica. But these new materials, including dichloroethane, are not covered under the current protocol. Efforts are being made to put the material on the list of banned substances. But if that fails, however, the expected date of the ozone recovery may not be until sometime in the 2080s.
Antarctica has a hole the size of South Carolina in the middle of its ice sheet. This is the second year in a row scientists have noticed this hole in the Weddell Sea, and only the third time in history a hole has formed. The first time this happened was in the mid-1970s. This phenomenon of open water being where ice should be is called polynya. Scientists aren't sure what causes polynya, but it's physically formed from the upwelling of warm, salty water to the surface. The warm water melts the sea ice and creates a hole of open water in the ice sheet. As long as this upwelling continues, polynya will continue to exist. However, the longer this upwelling persists, the harder it will become for ice to reform over the hole. Scientists are currently studying the polynya with robotic submersibles. Good evening, I'm your forecaster, Kristy Steward. Well, we've had a pretty mild fall so far, and those mild conditions will be continuing into this weekend, but we will be feeling those more normal fall-like conditions by the start of next week. For Friday, there is a cold front that will be over the top of northern Pennsylvania, but we will be seeing mostly sunny skies thanks to this high pressure system that is just down to our south. And then on Saturday, that high pressure system makes its way closer to our region, and then we will be having mostly sunny skies once again. And on Sunday, those sunny skies persist, but there is a cold front that is off to our west, and this cold front will be pushing its way towards us on Sunday night and into Monday, and we could be seeing some rain showers with that cold front as it makes its way through. But for Friday, we're looking at a temperature of around 70 degrees, nice and sunny and bright out there. Friday night cooling down to the mid-40s, and it'll be mostly clear, maybe a cloud or two in the sky. And then on Saturday, once again, temperatures around that 70-degree mark and plenty of sunshine out there. So a great weekend is ahead and a perfect game day conditions out there when we have a whiteout against Michigan. So when you're out there cheering on the Nittany Lions as we win against Michigan, that 7:30 p.m. kickoff, we're looking at temperatures in the mid to upper 60s and a few clouds in the sky. So I don't think we could ask for a better game day for the fall, for the middle of October. And on Sunday, temperatures once again warming up to the lower 70s with plenty of sunshine out there. And now I will hand it over to Addis, who has a feature on Hurricane Ophelia.
While we're enjoying sunshine and mild weather here at home all the way across the Atlantic, Hurricane Ophelia made its presence felt, impacting Ireland with gusty winds and heavy rain this past week. It's a unique storm, not only for its impacts to Ireland, but also how far east such a strong storm was able to go. Hurricane Ophelia began as remnants from a decaying cold front in the middle of the northeast Atlantic, an unusual but not unprecedented spot for development in early October. By October 9th, a circulation that was becoming organized formed into a tropical depression. Even with water temperatures slightly below the critical threshold of 80 degrees, intensifying thunderstorms into the low center and low wind shear allowed the storm to strengthen into a hurricane only 2 days later. Ben Reppert, a meteorologist with the Weather Communications Group at Penn State, was one of the many in the department who were tracking the storm.
It took a few days for Ophelia to get organized, but once Ophelia did get organized and started to move north, typically it's hard for storms to maintain such a strong strength when moving north in that part of the ocean because the water gets too cold. But Ophelia was able to maintain a well enough organized center of circulation despite some cooling water and was able to move north.
Hurricane Ophelia impacted not only Ireland, but also the Azores as well as Iberia, bringing flooding rainfall, destructive winds, even fanning wildfires in Spain and Portugal.
I mean, several people were killed, strong winds in excess of 100 miles per hour, and the strong winds from the storm helped to spread fires. The wind was definitely the big story here, one of their strongest non-winter windstorms on record. Ophelia impacted Ireland with wind speeds similar to a Category 2 hurricane, even though it was actually extratropical upon getting there.
Extratropical cyclones are storms that lose their stacked and warm core tropical characteristics, but in no way does this imply lesser impacts.
When a storm starts to become extratropical or post-tropical, it starts to just resemble more of your standard low-pressure system that we talk about here really at any time of the year, in which case the storm is not vertically stacked but is in fact more leaned over. It starts to get affected by other things in the atmosphere.
Typical feeding ground for hurricanes this time of year is in the Caribbean Sea. So how unusual is it for a storm of Ophelia's strength to move that far east?
Storms of Ophelia's strength in the portion of the Atlantic where she was, not very common at all. In fact, Ophelia is the strongest hurricane now on record so far east in the Atlantic, past the 35 degrees west. So certainly an uncharted territory in that sense.
Ophelia's direct strike to Ireland has many wondering how frequent October tropical cyclones are in the Atlantic, and what places in the United States are most at risk right now.
In general, October hurricane frequency is starting to become rather rare again. We're getting closer to the end of the season. Ocean water is starting to cool. There's usually an increase in wind shear in the Atlantic Ocean as the jet stream starts to move back to the south as we head toward winter. So in general, October storms are not the most common, certainly not unprecedented to have them, but it's more typical to have them form closer to home, the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, where the waters tend to hang onto their warmth a little bit longer, and it takes a little bit longer for the increased shear, the wind shear, to get there.
The storm is a reminder that hurricanes don't pay attention to latitude and longitude lines, nor do they pay attention to the calendar. It's important for hurricane-prone areas to remain prepared throughout the entire duration of hurricane season, formerly known as the end of November.
2017 is going to be remembered as a very active hurricane season. I know that for a lot of people, 2005 was the most recent benchmark banner year that everybody talked about, and I think 2017 will be remembered as one of the greats, but not in a good way, obviously.
As if it already wasn't an unforgettable hurricane season, Ophelia only adds to the now over $1 billion in sustained damage so far this season, a season that has impacted so many lives both here at home and afar. As of October 18th, 15 total storms have occurred this season, 10 of which were hurricanes and 6 of those which were major. For Weather or Not, I'm Juklo.
Hello everybody, I'm back with your extended forecast. These mild conditions will be persisting through the weekend, but then we will be seeing some more typical fall-like conditions by the start of next week. So for this weekend, temperatures all weekend will be around that 70-degree mark. Nice and bright and sunny out there. A great weekend to go out and cheer on the Nittany Lions as we win against Michigan during our whiteout game on Saturday night. And then our nights throughout the weekend will be cooling down to the mid to upper 40s. And then we have a cold front making its way through the area on Monday, so that will cool down temperatures to more seasonable temperatures. So average for this time of year is in the upper 50s, and we will actually be cooling down to a little bit below average. We'll be cooling down to the lower 50s by the end of the week. And also behind that cold front, we will be left with quite a bit of rain chances throughout the week. Thursday looks like it's our only pretty much certain dry day out there that we'll be seeing some peaks of sun, but then on Friday, we could be seeing some rain chances return into our forecast.
Well, Kristy, thank you for your forecast. It looks like we will get that chill, but we'll have to wait a little bit for it.
That's right. We'll be coming at the beginning of next week when we get some of that rain coming back into our area.
Yeah. The good news is no rain or breezy conditions, unlike the folks over the British Isles had with the Hurricane Ophelia over the last couple of days. And speaking of which, our question this week was, how many consecutive tropical storms in the Atlantic have reached hurricane strength this year? Was it A, 6, B, 8, C, 10, or D, 12? If you guessed C, you are correct. Hurricane Ophelia is the 10th consecutive tropical storm to reach hurricane strength so far this season.
That's right, and this marks the first time since 1893 that 10 tropical storms in a row strengthened into hurricanes, which ties the record. It's only the 4th time in recorded history that this has happened.
Yep, there's still a month and a half to go in the hurricane season. It does not end until the 30th of November, so we have a little time to see if we can break that record.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and that's all the time we have this week on Whether or Not. I'm your host, Jake Langedyk.
And I've been your forecaster, Kristy Steward.
Have a good weekend, everyone.